to close this because this
Okay.
actually does quite a lot to
That's good.
eliminate the reverberations in here.
Cool. See you later.
See you soon.
Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local business owners and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, author of the Localist book and former small business owner, Carrie Rollwagen. So today I wanted to talk about finding time for your side hustle. So whether or not this is like a true side hustle where you're just trying to make some extra money, or you maybe want to have a small business someday, or you want to level up in your career, or even if you just want to do something that's kind of like a hobby, like writing a book or taking up painting, but it's something that is actually difficult to find time for, that you're going to have to find some serious time, then it can actually be difficult to work that into your normal routine. I think we get the advice pretty consistently that we can get up an hour early or use our lunch break or stay late an hour at work. And all of that is good advice. And I do that. If you've done something like this, you've probably done that too. But sometimes it's also not enough. Like sometimes you just need some sessions where you just make a lot of forward progress on your project. And you need those times. Like part of it is that you need those because you just need to actually do more work or studying or whatever it is. And to some extent, you also need those as like a mental kind of push forward to say like, I am making progress. Because when you make incremental progress day by day, yes, it's true that that is where the real progress is. And over time, you actually are moving forward. But sometimes psychologically, it can be difficult because when that is just moving forward a little bit of it at a time, it feels like you're not getting anywhere. So I do like to kind of have different ways to stay inspired, to stay motivated, and to really make time for deep work that is not exactly possible when we're just carving a little bit of time at the beginning or end or in the middle of our day. So there are a few different ways that I do this. So in my life, like I have a pretty demanding day job. I also have the Localist, and I'm also trying to work on a book. So it is tough to find time to work on the book. And sometimes I do try to get up every morning and write. Sometimes that works. And sometimes I just don't have it, like my day job is more demanding than usual, or the Localist needs something else, or I'm just really tired, or I just don't have the energy to kind of focus in. So even when that's not happening and I'm not doing the day-to-day, I do try to carve out different spaces. So one way I do this is to plan a retreat. So you may have, like when you were in school, heard of people booking a hotel room for a couple of days just to kind of hole up and just study without anybody distracting them, with a different environment. And I use this method a lot, even in my even post school. So I will literally book a hotel room or book an Airbnb, or sometimes I go to a place called Camp McDowell, where I am just going there with the sole intention of doing work. So I find that, first of all, a lot of times I try to go to somewhere on the retreat that actually looks cool and is inspiring, like nature, essentially. So that does help. But even when I don't do that, and even when I'm just in a hotel room, it helps me a lot. First of all, it just gives me uninterrupted time to actually work on my project. Also, I find myself checking social media, talking on the phone, kind of wasting time less just by putting myself in a different environment. So it is weird to say that I need to go somewhere else to save myself from myself, to get my habits a little bit different, and to make sure I'm only focusing on this thing. But personally, I do need that. And ideally, I try to do this like once a quarter. That doesn't always work out. But usually if I try to plan for once a quarter, I end up going like twice a year. So that is helpful. And it is also like just helpful for me to say like I'm on a writing retreat, or I'm going to knock out a bunch of work. And that just like mentally helps me a lot. I do have I think I have a newsletter list of things that you can do to make your retreats more successful. We have a Localist episode on that as well. So if you're wanting to deep dive into doing a retreat and what's involved in that, then I can definitely help you there, because I've done this a lot, and I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of not necessarily expertise, but I have lists and what's worked and what's not worked, and hopefully that can help you out. So I do find that taking that time and setting aside that time and planning a retreat is a great way to make forward progress. Another thing I like to do is to remind myself that I don't always have to be doing something in order to be progressing. So it is also helpful to research. At the end of the day, I don't have a lot of mental capacity left to actually write my book. I am still have kind of what's been going on in the day buzzing around in my head, and it's hard for me to flip the switch and be in that world of fiction. However, I can research the book. So I like to watch masterclasses. I think that's a really great program. If you don't want to pay for masterclass, you can find tons of free stuff on YouTube. For writing, I kind of do both. There are a lot of masterclasses by really great writers, and also there's a free class by Brandon Sanderson on YouTube that I'm watching on fantasy writing. So whatever it is you're doing, there's tons of stuff about it on YouTube, on the internet. You can read books, you can watch things, and I find that even when I'm kind of exhausted from the workday and I can't produce more work, I still can stay inspired and remind myself, kind of stay in that world. So throughout the week, I can't necessarily make progress on my side hustle, but I can remind myself that this is something that matters to me, and I'm still kind of dipping a toe into that, so that when I am able to revisit it, it isn't oh my goodness, where even am I? I felt like a different person and now I'm trying to shift into this mode. I can just kind of shift into that mode a lot more easily. And then I also will batch work on the weekends. So throughout the week, it's very hectic, I typically just will kind of dip into research or inspiration, but I do set aside those weekends. Now, to me, this is very different than when I go on a retreat, because when I go on a retreat, I'm blocking off the entire 2 or 3 days to do work. On the weekends, I don't want to do that. If I worked 48 hours every weekend, well, obviously I would sleep, so I wouldn't do that. But even if I worked Saturday and Sunday every weekend, I would get burned out really easily. So what I try to do is make sure I have at least one day that's a Sabbath day or a rest day, and for me that's usually Saturday. And then on Sunday, I have a little ritual that is working, it is doing work, but it's also a little bit of a respite for me. So I go to a coffee shop I love a lot. I go to Lady Bird Coffee, who we've had on the podcast. But the people there are really nice. Their coffee is really good, and I just enjoy. It's really easy for me. I kind of go and typically get my own table. I like the ritual or the routine of that. And so throughout the week, I will dip into whatever project I'm working on and kind of prep it with the idea that I will at least block off a couple hours in the morning on the weekend to kind of make forward progress. So if you are doing something like this and trying to level up or trying to do something different, and your life is just not allowing you to get much time on a day-to-day basis, these are 3 things I would try. Try and see if you can plan a retreat. If you can't plan a retreat, maybe see if you can get a few hours alone on the weekend. I would say it probably is best to leave the house for that, so you don't have those distractions around you. And whether or not you can do one of those things, maybe look at some ways to research, even watching movies, or if you are a musician, listening to inspiring music, something that reminds you of doing this thing that you want to do and can kind of remind you again why this is worth it, why you want this, can be really helpful. So I hope these tips work for you as well as they have worked for me, and that you're able to move forward on whatever area of life that you want to, even when your daily life is pretty hectic. So The Localist is written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagen. We record right here at Infomedia Studios. So if you're interested in podcasting, or you want us to shoot some social media like Reels for you, or you want blogs or anything to do with media or your website, hit us up at infomedia.com and fill out that contact form. We would love to help. We love shooting in here, and we would love to have you in here too. Our showrunner on The Localist is Taylor Davis. Jen Tucker is our outreach manager, and Elena Harmon is our promotions manager. You can find show notes at carrierollwagen.com, and you can find me on pretty much all social media at @CRollwagen. So until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local and putting small shops before big box.